Welcome back to UAP Tuesday. It is the big thing. Thanks for joining us here today. Thanks to everybody who's been joining us here today. For the last couple of Tuesdays, last few months, we've been doing this. Thank you so much. The community has been growing tremendously because of you guys. So I ask you right away, if you saw this title and you're like, more people talking about it. Yeah. So do me a favor. You see that thing floating around there? Click it. We're trying to get to 200,000 faster than we got to 100 because we want to get the conversation going more. So the more people that are commenting, the more people that are liking, the more people that are subscribing, we get the word out because there's a lot of other networks that are not covering this. The networks that should be covering it. I talk about Wonka, for God's sakes, and I'm the one that's covering this more than freaking CNN and Fox. This is silly. And we'll talk about that for sure. And why? Why are we talking about that today? Because the bill, this big bill, that would finally give disclosure to the public to see whether or not you believe it or not, to go, well, what the hell is it? Well, for some reason, they said, no. Some of this can go through. We're going to water it down tremendously. So all the stuff that really counts is out. And why? Because Mike Turner is bought and paid for, guys, bought and paid for. We'll talk about the article from like 2010 that David Grush had mentioned that said this guy is bought and paid for, one of the most corrupt politicians, and yet he's the one that is blocking this thing. Why? Because someone came to him and said, hey, guess what? We'll give you some money. Block it. And you're, all right, why not? I need some money. I don't care about the aliens. What do I care? I don't like people. I can tell people anything. Skunk. So we'll talk to him. We're going to bring him in. We're going to bring him in the show. That's not true. I'm lying to you the same way that he does. But we are going to talk about him. We're talking about how corrupt he is. There's other people that are saying that in 2024 we're still getting disclosure one way or another. How important is that to not have the coverage behind it and to do all and to have it out there? How important is it to actually have the government to be the ones that are doing it? So yeah, I'm fired up. My co-hosts Mark Reilly and Attack Peter, they're fired up, and we're going to talk about it to you guys. So once again, make sure that you're part of the conversation. Hit that button right away. Why? Why should I do it? Because it's important. I'm turning into Seinfeld. You have to do it. Let's figure it out. What's in the sky? So, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere podcasts are found. It is UAP Tuesday. Let's do it. All right, guys, we are back. It is UAP Tuesday. It's Big Thing, and I am Kristian Harloff, and I am joined today by my partner in crime, as always, Mark Yodius Reilly, and back with us once again. People love him, and I understand why. The one and only Attack Peter. Peter, I'm fired up, man. Fired up.
You know, this one, I'm trying to like remain calm and not like get too upset because there's a theme to today's show that I'm sure we'll get to, and it's one that bugs me all the time. But yeah, we'll get into it.
Yeah.
Mark, same with you, man. I mean, we've been talking about this for months, in that I go back and forth and back and forth. I'm like, oh, maybe we're getting there. Maybe this is it. And then that part of me that seems to be true, unfortunately, goes, they're going to find a way to say no. They've been, and Peter, I've been saying this. There's a quote that George Knapp said that is ringing true over and over and over. They are better at covering this up, and they are better at their job than we are at ours. And he said that, and it is so unfortunately true. It's heartbreaking. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know, Reilly, you know, we went into this thing last week going, it looks like it's going to get blocked. That seemed like it was going to happen. And then obviously it did. Schumer is up there trying his best, but there's corruption. There's corruption all around us.
Yeah, you said bought and paid for. This is ridiculous. I heard it on my way home from Thanksgiving, listening to the Grush interview on Joe Rogan, and the mics he brought up. I was just like, the two mics. I'm like, uh-oh, this ain't good. And sure enough,
that was the first fart. Ridiculous. That was the first fart in the elevator for sure.
Yeah.
When he said it, you're like, wait, what? Because at that point, when he was on Rogan, I was like, oh, this thing's passing through. And then when he said that, the second he said that, I'm like, oh no, because he was setting us up. But Peter, you know, we'll get into like the details of the article. But before we even do, like, last week, kind of going, we didn't get a chance to talk to you last week, but did you feel the same way that we did? Like this isn't gonna happen.
I mean, look, I gotta be honest with you. It's easy to say now, but I think I would have been incredibly shocked if things worked out the way they are supposed to work out, where like the will of the people is represented in this our democratic republic, and they actually that doesn't happen for anything. So why would it happen for this? I'm not as disappointed because that's my expectation.
Right.
The reality is though is that they clearly are putting this guy Mike Turner out to be, today's, scapegoat for the whole thing, because obviously, to your point, Mike Turner is the guy they draft to take the hits now. So like now everybody's gonna be focused on how much they can't stand Mike Turner, and rightfully so. He did the deed, but there's going to be another Mike Turner in a few years, and there's been many in the past. And so what this to me what this the silver lining of all of this, and it feels like it's been the case for the last 5 to 10 years, there's a hot button issue that resonates with certain people more than others, and through their scrutiny of that issue, you start to see the way the machine works,
right?
And that the next time the machine revs up to start acting the way it always does for an issue that maybe you're not paying so closely attention to, you go, there it is again. And so it's a good thing in that regard that we all saw it. You couldn't have more credible people come out. You couldn't have bigger platforms, and yet it still works against it.
Yeah, because look, one of the things though is that I couldn't agree with you more that there's going to be another Mike Turner, because this is the way they know how to play the game. They go, okay, well, who is the guy that we can say, hey, we'll give you X amount of dollars or something you probably don't give a crap about anyway, right? So we want this blocked up. We've been putting money towards your account for a while anyway. So we're going to give you a little bit more money. And here's the money we're going to give you. Whoa, that's a lot of zeros. What do you want me to do? Block it. And then when people ask you about it, say nothing. He hasn't said anything. He said nothing as far as why. They've asked him, why are you blocking it? Nothing. And it's like the same question is so if you got nothing to hide. And so for people who don't know, if you tuned in for the first time, you're like, what the hell are they talking about? There was a bill that was submitted months and months and months ago. It was essentially drafted up before David Grush even came out. And Schumer had put together this whole thing. And then once Grush came out, that obviously was able to elevate it and just really accelerate it and make it get pushed more. And that it was a bipartisan thing, that everyone was saying that there needs to be disclosure of what you found, whether you found stuff that was crashed ships or you didn't find it. We need to find out exactly what it is, and we want to tell the people about it. And it seemed like everyone was on board with that. But then out of nowhere, it seemed like these Mike Turner and a couple other Republicans, with Turner really leading the charge, blocked it out of almost in like the 11th hour. Like, what? Why? Why? And when you look at the funding behind Mike Turner, he's funded by some of the major corporations that are rumored or speculation is that they are the ones that are funding these programs, these private companies. And so it stinks to high heaven, this whole thing. It stinks.
It really does. And what worries me too is that there are future Mike Turners out there, with the deep pockets of these aerospace companies and the lobbyists that they you said it, Kristian, they throw the zeros at them. I worry that we get more bipartisan support in the future, wherever it may be, and then another guy steps up. No. Let's just block that over here and just put it over here, because money talks. Yeah. And that's what's so frustrating about this, is that bullshit needs to get hell out of here, because what we are simply asking for is transparency. I know, and it's Burchett was on, we're going to get there, but again, he says it all the time. We're not talking Martians here. We are talking about disclosure, transparency. Right. If it's China, if it's Russia, if it's threats against us that come from our earthly own plane,
what do you got? What do you got? So and this is, as we mentioned, Reilly, we're going to talk about Burchett, who was, to be fair, this interview that we are going to play in a little bit from Burchett was from a CNN reporter. So they did ask him. In my opinion, it's like sometimes when you have like celebrities that are promoting like their latest film that no one's really going to see, like a smaller film or a book that they think, but they were in a Star Wars movie or a Marvel movie. You want to talk to them about that, but you're like, hey, they want you to talk about the book. And you're like, oh, ask him about the UFO stuff. He likes that stuff. So it's what it felt like, but nonetheless, they covered it. But my thing is this. Here's what you need to do. Everybody who's like writing, because it's like, oh, write a letter to Congress, write a letter to your senators. That's what everybody says to do. You know what they're doing? The ones, Mike Turner, he's going like this. Taking your letter and he's throwing it in the trash. They're not reading that stuff. What you need to do is write letters to the networks, write letters to CNN, write letters to Fox, write letters to MSNBC. You don't need to write them to News Nation and The Hill. They're covering all the time. And the only reason you're getting kind of any mainstream coverage is from them, because that's what Peter was talking about. You don't have anybody out there with the main. You said everybody's talking about it. We're talking about it. People are watching those things are talking about it. Dude, I had people on that are interested in this stuff, knew nothing about what's going on. Don't know. How do you not? And again, as Reilly said, you don't have to believe it, but you have to know, you should know what's going on about it. And when I'm talking to people like, hey, did you see that stuff that's talking? I was talking to somebody yesterday about it. I can't remember who it was, but I was like, you know, oh yeah, I'm fascinated with the UFO stuff. I said there was some stuff going on, right? A couple months ago. I'm like, a couple months ago, always, is there still stuff going on with it? I'm like, yes, there's this whole thing from the Senate Majority Leader put in a bill to try to get full disclosure, and no one knows about it. It's ridiculous, right?
That's the thing. He's up there talking about this, talking about UAPs, talking about like something that could just absolutely earth-shattering news. No one covered our Democratic senator, like majority leader. So,
it's crazy.
It's crazy about election interference, or the Trump or Biden, or God forbid Hunter Biden. It's all over the news. But with this kind of stuff, I mean, it's just like, heads in the sand. Don't look around. And the mainstream media is absolutely at fault here. They are absolutely just ridiculous that they don't cover this stuff. And I feel like it's that stigma that follows us around everywhere. That they don't believe people want to know.
Yeah, I know. All right. So look, I'm going to read the first article here. So let me read this article, and then we'll get, we mentioned the Burchett thing. So let's just start with that. I'll put the Burchett article or interview rather up, and here we go. All right. So here's the clip. This is from CNN, and it is Inside Politics Sunday, and they did ask Burchett about it. It's short, albeit, but here's the audio from Burchett.
I just want disclosure. Since 1947, the federal government said they don't exist, but now we know they're spending millions upon millions of dollars researching something that they claim doesn't exist. I'm not talking about little green men or flying saucers. I just want disclosure, and I think the American public deserves that if we're putting our hard-earned dollars in.
Why do you think they're blocking you?
I think it's a cover-up. I think there's something else going on. I think there's technology there and other things that our industrial war complex is profiting from.
Now, over in the Senate, the Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Republican Mike Rounds also pushing for more disclosure. But this year's defense bill does not go as far. While the bill would require the government to disclose the sightings to the National Archives, eventually some of those becoming public, it does give federal agencies and the president significant latitude to keep such sightings classified. Why? The congressional source says it was House Intelligence Committee Chairman Mike Turner who resisted the push for greater disclosure. His office did not respond to our request for comment, and the Pentagon, meanwhile, declined to comment. So the mystery continues.
All right. So this is what I will say. First of all, kudos to CNN for actually covering the actual story itself, because as much as every week we crap on the networks, and even the one that the report that they did on Meet the Press was kind of like, oh, maybe they're out there, maybe they're not. The same stuff that we've seen like forever, that kind of garbage. This, even though he had a little smirk at the end of it, like maybe they said, hey, just cover this thing. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe he's very interested in it. I can't speak on the man, but I can say that he covered the actual story that we're talking about finally on a bigger platform. And as Reilly said, we didn't get it we didn't really able to record it, but it's basically, this is everything we're talking about in a nutshell. This is everything. This is Mike Turner, and then throwing in what we didn't is the fact that the guy is he's put in charge of the intelligence. He's part of the head of the intelligence. That portion of it to where they're going to report to him, they're going to talk to him, and he's talking to them all the time. So of course he's going to be the one. So the answer is, as far as why, because that's why they want to. And Burchett said it. They want to cover it up. They don't want, there's some kind of tech, whatever it might be. So Peter, you hear that interview with Burchett, you hear that follow up with CNN. What do you think after seeing that?
I actually feel a little bit of sympathy for Burchett. I've really found him to be a humanizing element to the story as it's gone on, and he is, obviously it's probably have a lot of different views politically and all that, but he does give me that Mr. Smith Goes to Washington vibe when I see him speak, and I feel like this is the kind of thing you hope the government is, people who agree and disagree with you, but are honestly representing big issues, big, important, unifying issues, and, going back to what I said in the beginning, it's like, even though it's a bummer that this is how this chapter ended, I think the fact that like the day after, and not to jump the shark on anything here, or jump ahead, I should say, the day after we knew that this was going to get killed, the CIA secret office got revealed, makes you realize how this is going to continue. Like, we're going to have to fight on all fronts for disclosure, from everybody from a lowly level podcaster to people in government. And then when there are victories, there are victories. And when there are defeats, there are defeats. But in reality, they have to work really hard, really, really hard to keep a lie going. Whereas we just have to kind of keep pushing to see, like, doing what we normally do. And then truth is going to leak out from one place to the next. People like David Grush, people like Fravor and Ryan Graves and all that, and people who are working really hard are going to inspire the next person who is like, I'm going to come out and say what I know. I'm going to come out and say what I know. And right before we jumped on the stream, I'm pretty sure I heard that Grush has a big interview coming out this week, right? Tomorrow.
Actually, today.
Okay.
Ooh,
today.
Nice.
But I just think that that's the big takeaway, Kristian, is that like the temptation in my being is to like go, all right, well, we'll see what happens in 5 years. But the reality is, even if I feel like that, this thing is gone. The train's left the station. This has now reached meme territory where it's just going to be in the zeitgeist now. It's just going to be.
Reilly, I do agree with that in a way, like, because I think that there is that level of, oh, well, here they blocked it, so it's over now. And I even saw somebody last week on our episode was like, all right, guys, looks like, got blocked. It's over now, so find something else now. You tell them, Steve, Dave, you got us. So,
Steve, yeah, we're going to review Wonka now.
Right, yeah, exactly. Everything else seems so silly now.
That's the mentality, right? The mentality is, well, it got blocked, so you aren't going to do it. So move on, YouTube.
No.
Take a shower.
Peter, you said it. The train has left the station. Now, what's dangerous to me is the fact that these leaks can happen without the transparency. People are so, they're like, look, we got to get this out here. And that can really put in jeopardy some of the stuff that we need to, like, certain things that should be kept secret.
Yeah,
for now,
exactly.
Certain people that are out there, Grush even said it in Rogan's interview. If he says certain things, you can have Russia or China saying, wait a minute, we could do this, we could do that. So a leak comes out, it might not hit the mainstream media, or, it'll hit here, of course. But who else is listening out there? Right. Who else is wondering what's going on and has their own programs? And I'm talking about, Russia or China or fill in the blank, that want this technology, this reverse engineering, whatever it may be. It rings true to me when Grush says, hey, I'm not going to tell, like Rogan asks, how many of them are out there. He's like, I can't say that, because if I say 7 and then Russia and China spies go, wait a minute, we had 5. We got to now send more people out here. Same deal can happen. We have a leak that maybe can come out from a source or another whistleblower or whatever that is not sanctioned by the U.S. government, that is not part of this committee that Schumer wanted to create, that can be detrimental to our national security, because that's a big part of it. And going back to what Burchett said, I think that part of this narrative needs to change, that we're not talking about little green men. We are talking about things that can harm us, actual things that could, like, what is out there? What is, like, Graves talking about firsthand account of his buddy saying this thing came within 30 feet of us. You know what I mean? And then there's reports out there that, these things have actually hit our own people.
Yeah.
And that's what's scary. It's not, and I'm not talking Martians. So change
and the
that
other side
narrative. You know?
Yeah, and the other side of it
else to talk about.
Yeah, and not only is it things that could be a threat that we should be aware of, but it's also technology that could greatly advance society and help people and be
Right.
an equalizing force to, in third world countries, imagining being
It's
able
knowledge,
to.
Peter, it's knowledge.
That's it. Someone, it's a meme now on the internet somewhere where it's like you can't classify like reality, right? So like
Right.
if the reality is there is technology that could get goods, services, medicine, food, water from point A to point B in split, fractions of a time that we're doing it now, and we're withholding it, that's fucked up. Someone's talked about the nuclear, the Manhattan Project. Yeah, we all know that there's nuclear technology. We use it for power and we use it for weapons. Does it mean that we should all know how to make nuclear bombs here at home? No. So, but there's that nuance that seems to be lacking from our representatives. And this Turner character, the last time I heard him speak on publicly in the news, it was him kind of like laughingly, dismissively, condescendingly saying like, all these fellas here talking about UAP, none of them have come to my office to talk about it. And now everyone's reaching out to him for comment after killing this bill. And you can't get a hold of him.
He's the perfect example of the same stuff that happened in the 40s and the 50s. He's the guy, as you mentioned before, he's the guy right now that they use to say this. That's why he's in his position.
He's the newspaper lining at the bottom of the birdcage.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've ever heard that metaphor before, but someone once described presidential politics to me as every 4 years we elect someone to be the newspaper liner at the bottom of the birdcage, and then we get upset. And then you get upset. You get upset at the newspaper for being covered in feces, but no one looks at the bird. And every, after Turner, there'll be someone else equally as unsavory, and then we'll never look at what's the real reason.
The problem is we can't see the bird.
Right.
That's the problem. The bird's hiding. The bird's invisible. So all we can see is the newspaper being crapped on. So, and the problem is that you talk about Burchett, and there's a lot of reasons why Burchett's every time he talks now, he seems defeated. He didn't seem like that kind of hispumba, like, dog, not it. We're going to find out what it is. Now he just seems like people just keep kicking him in the balls every time he opens the door. And you can hear when you listen to Grush, Turner's one of the guys that's trying to get him boosted out of his seat. Why is that? Why do they want to get? So what I would tell you is Tennessee, right? Is that where he's the?
Yeah.
So what I would tell you is that if you're in Tennessee and you care about this stuff, and look, and it's the politics of it all too, but I would say that he's probably the guy you want to vote for if you want this kind of stuff out there, because Turner's trying to get rid of him for a reason. In the same way Peter said, oh no, they never came and talked to me. Well, I'm sure Burchett did. And for some reason, he's in your party, and now you want to. Why in the world? You never see that. Why is another Republican trying to get this guy out of his seat in Tennessee? What does he care? Why is he?
And probably Christian, they probably have a lot more in common in terms of their political politics. So it just goes to show, we've all seen House of Cards. I feel like that was a watershed moment for pop culture. And now based on that, you kind of get an idea of how this stuff works.
100%. So it's shady all the way around the board. But I'll tell you what isn't shady: holiday gifts. Yeah, you like that? Tell you what, this is what we do on the show. We keep each and every week we're able to stay on the air because of our wonderful sponsors. And man, I am so excited to tell you both about Trade Coffee and nuts.com. It's Christmas time. You're going to have some great gifts, and I'll tell you right now. It really is the holiday season. I'm so excited. Finally, Trade is back. I love Trade. I love Trade Coffee. I've been using Trade Coffee forever, and I'm so glad that they're back. Why? They are absolutely incredible, and Trade Coffee can help you nail your holiday gift giving this year. Trust me, a subscription to Trade, it is the perfect gift for any coffee lover. You just choose how much to spend, and Trade is going to help your recipient personalize the coffee to their preference. Best of all, Trade's gift subscriptions cut out the worry around shipping deadlines, as the digital subscription is delivered instantly to their inbox. Well, what is it? Trade is a subscription service that sources the best coffee across the country and brings it to your doorstep. They've built relationships with 55 plus local rosters so you can enjoy their craft from the comfort of your own home. I've been using them since we had them last time, and I continue to. This is the one that I use. This is the Flores Bellas blend. I love it. It gets me going in the morning, baby. I love Trade coffee. You can hear how excited I am. I've been waiting. I've been wanting. I have Trade back to tell you guys about them. They're so amazing. They have any type of flavor. You want something, you want the dark coffee, you want something with a little bit more flavor. They got it all. So give the gift of better coffee at home. From now through December 25th, Trade is offering 15% off all gift subscriptions at drinktrade.com/bigthing. Shop now through Christmas Day to save. That's drinktrade.com/bigthing. 15% off all gift subscriptions through Christmas Day. drinktrade.com/bigthing. It will be the best Christmas present you can give this year. This is the best. Nuts. Get off my nuts. Don't touch my nuts. I love these nuts. I love them. Listen, you ever been to a candy store? You ever been to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory? Probably not the last one, but you can get something close. Check this out, nuts.com. Maybe you can't get to the chocolate factory, but I'll get you close enough. The online version of that is nuts.com. Besides just having a lot of great nuts, they have classic candies. They got butterscotch, they got fudge, and licorice. Cashews, almonds, pecans, pistachios, dried mango, crystallized ginger, dates, jelly beans, jawbreakers, root beer barrels. It goes on and on and on at nuts.com. I was so excited to have them come along. I mean, look at that. That's what I got. That's what I've been eating. That's what I've been chewing on. Yeah, and even that little fat pug that I love so much, he loves it too. Although he can't really eat nuts, but he loves smelling them. Nuts.com is your one-stop shop for freshly roasted nuts, dried fruits, sweets, pantry staples like specialty flours, and much more. They have a wide selection and means that there's something for everyone. At nuts.com, quality, top priority. They roast their nuts and they pop their corn the same day that it ships. They reach you deliciously fresh. Satisfaction is guaranteed, and I can be a testament. Right now, I'm snacking on these because I love these almonds. They're really good. And I know, not ideal when you're telling people about stuff to have food in your face, but I can't stand it to keep them away from me. They're right in front of my face. I have to eat nuts.com. So again, stay away from my nuts. Get your own nuts. Nuts.com. So listen to this deal. Right now, nuts.com is offering new customers a free gift with purchase and free shipping on orders for $29 or more at nuts.com/bigthing. So if you check out all the delicious options at nuts.com/bigthing, you're going to get a free gift and free shipping if you spend $29 or more. Nuts.com/bigthing. Yes, there are a lot more nuts jokes I could have made. All right. Thank you to our friends over at Trade Coffee and nuts.com. Very excited to have them. And if you want to support the show, if you like seeing us on here every week and you want to keep us on here, the way to do it is get yourself your own holiday gift or buy someone a holiday gift with one of our wonderful sponsors today, and it helps out the show tremendously. All right, let's stay with this skunk, Mike Turner.
Yeah.
I'm going to read this article. This is from like 2010. And just to give an idea.
A long time.
I know. All right, check this out. This is from 2010, guys. 2010, 13 years ago. The 26 members listed in the 2010 most corrupt members of Congress.
I love that you're doing this.
Of course. Number 1, Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee. Roy Blunt. What's that?
Whoops. No, nothing. It's just, yeah, that makes sense. That tracks.
Blunt, Vern Buchanan, Kevin, blah, 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 blah. Where is he, though? But number 17, guys. Number 17. Mike Turner, and he's still in there. He's still in there 13 years later. Most corrupt members of Congress. He's number 17, guys. And
yeah, it makes me think that the ones that aren't in Congress anymore weren't corrupt enough.
Yeah, right.
But here's the crazy thing about it. He's number 17 on that list 13 years ago, and he's making decisions like this.
Yeah,
it
stinks.
If you're on a list, you're out.
Yep.
You're out. You cannot make decisions on this if you're on this big list. Well, it's a political thing. 13 years ago, he's on the list. even if, whatever it might be.
Before the circus, right?
Yeah. 13 years
Before
ago.
the stuff that like is really like, sometimes you can kind of look at politics and like what's going on with McCarthy, for allowing the government to stay open, and certain people in his caucus was like, nope, get out of here, and so the circus is happening right now. You can maybe read something like that and go, oh, was this article in 2023? No, 2010.
Right.
2010. We're talking about 13 years ago, and this guy is listed as one of the most corrupt. That stinks to high heaven.
Stinks. And Grush said it as much on Rogan's show. And he's like, he was listed there, and it tracks. It tracks.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to say, okay, well, what's this guy's record been? Well, in 2010, he was awarded. Oh, no. He was actually listed as one of the most corrupt members of Congress. And and you know what that did? That was his resume.
Yeah.
That was his resume to get in.
That's his way of saying, I'm here. I'm ready to be used.
What do you want me to do? Well,
yeah.
So all your colleagues, all your colleagues that came in and told you about that stuff. Well, we want you to go on and say that nobody came to you. Right. Oh, and then the other thing, this dude, your time is now. What's up? Well, this bill, it can't go through. Right. Well, you can get money in your account. Okay, good. I'm good. Yeah. I'll do it. And of course, he's a crook.
Someone, I forgot who it was, said that if all of our representatives had to wear NASCAR uniforms that had all the donors branded on them, that it would be a lot harder to take them seriously when they're standing on a stump earnestly saying this, that, and the other. Opensecrets.org is a website where they show some of the campaign donorship. And right.
Can you send that to me? Send that to me.
Yeah, I'll send it to you right now.
Send it to me right now. And I'm going to read what this says here. This is, again, 2010. Mike Turner's opponent is calling for an investigation of him after a public interest group on Wednesday named Turner on its list of most corrupt lawmakers, citing a $300,000 no-bid contract awarded by the Dayton Develop Coalition 4 years ago to a company headed by Turner's wife. The people of the 3rd Congressional District deserve ethical leadership moving forward, said Joe Roberts, a catering Democrat who's trying to unseat Turner. Roberts said the House Ethics Committee and Department of Justice should investigate the allegations that Turner, which the group accuses of soliciting gifts and enriching himself, family, or friends. Yada, yada, yada. It goes around for a while, but he's been around since 2002, Turner. So if you want to check out that article, please do so. All right, here we go. So this is what Peter just sent me, and this is Mike Turner. This is his campaign committee fundraising. So what are we seeing here, Peter?
So essentially the website is to track money in politics, right? And so you can look up, I think, everybody and where their money comes from. But right there, top industries, right? 2023 to 2024, you can see the top two are miscellaneous defense, right? And defense aerospace for about equal amounts for their campaign race. And so, like, again, it's like if you take those two out of the picture there, he's got a lot less money to run in his local races. And I think that's how this whole system works, and it's like you make like you said, Kristian, you make yourself known. I'm one of the guys that you can buy, and they buy you, and then you go and you carry that torch. And it's almost unfair to single him out because it just seems like it's part and parcel for how this stuff works. But it's just, when things like this happen, it's important for everybody to go right to this and know, so that you can like just dismiss this nonsense. When they came after Grush for like 3 seconds, all they had was like, oh, he's upset because he went to freaking war, right. And he came back. And then you just, anybody who knows this stuff goes, yeah. Okay. That's the thing you throw at us. Now we can get to the real conversation.
Yeah. And they couldn't discredit him in the same way that you go, well, why isn't Mike Turner talking about this at all? It's the same way that, well, Grush is saying everything that he says, story hasn't changed. And that's actually the next thing I do want to play is this thing with Ross Coulthart from News Nation, because as Peter mentioned, that I believe it's today that Grush is going to have a second interview, and they ask him in this interview, this is about a 5-minute interview, so I want to play the whole thing. And they ask him about what he thinks Grush is going to say, and the answer is pretty interesting. So Here's the interview with Ross Coulthart on News Nation.
The ongoing fight for UFO transparency from the federal government. It is a story we've been following for more than a year now. And many who were interested in finding out exactly what the government knows were tracking the newest defense bill making its way through Capitol Hill. In it, two important new UFO provisions. One, a 10-person panel that would sort through which UAP records would be immediately disclosed to the public. And the other would have given the government full possession of all recovered, quote, non-human technologies being held privately, like by defense contractors. Both of these have now been stripped from the bill. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is blaming one party for fighting back against his efforts for more transparency: House Republicans. For more on this, I'm now joined by Ross Coulthart, News Nation special correspondent and investigative journalist who spoke exclusively with Pentagon whistleblower David Grush. It's good to see you again, Ross. Thanks for being here.
Good to be back. Good evening to you.
So, Ross, who were the principal House Republicans and individuals who worked behind the scenes to strip these UFO provisions from the final bill?
Unfortunately, it's primarily two congressmen who are very much under the thrall and influence of the defense aerospace lobby. You've got Mike Turner from Ohio, who covers the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And you've also got Mike Rogers from the Huntsville, Alabama area, who, of course, covers a huge amount of the defense aerospace industry down where he is. And there were also other Republicans dragged in, such as Mitch McConnell. It's a sad thing. It's a sad event, really, to see what was essentially previously a bipartisan piece of legislation in the Senate that received support from both sides of the Senate being knocked back inside the House for, frankly, no good reason other than the fact that the defense aerospace industry and certain sections of the Pentagon don't appear to want the public to know what they know.
Yeah, why wouldn't they want this information out publicly? Are you saying that it all comes down to lobbying?
Unfortunately, that seems to be the issue. I mean, Mike Turner, for example, since in around about the last 20 years, has received nearly $700,000 in donations from defense aerospace companies. And whilst he's not commenting at all about why he's taken the position that he's taken on this UAP disclosure bill that was put up by Chuck Schumer, the Senate Majority Leader, the proposal enjoyed support in the Senate from key Republicans, including Senator Marco Rubio. And it was a cross-party thing. And then all of a sudden in the House, we were all taken by surprise by this decision by certain key congressmen on both the Senate Armed Services Committee, the House Armed Services Committee and the House Intelligence Committee to essentially roll legislation that had bipartisan support. And frankly, the only possible interpretation is that they've been got at by the defense aerospace lobby that don't want the degree of accountability that both the Senate and indeed key people inside the US government were pushing for. And it's a tragedy because, frankly, it begs the question, if there's nothing to hide, why stop this legislation? Why not let it go through to the keeper and prove that there's nothing there? If there's nothing there to hide, why oppose legislation that would have provided disclosure?
Certainly. I know that David Grush will be appearing on Elizabeth Vargas Reports tomorrow night. Do you have any idea what we can expect from that interview?
I think you're going to see a very strong critique of the backroom lobbying that has basically stopped this legislation from coming into existence. But I think you'll also see an acknowledgement that we have come a long way in the past few years. It used to be unthinkable to talk about non-human intelligence and non-human technology. And now that's in black and white in legislation that's still before the House. And that's an achievement in itself. I think the simple fact that we are now hearing people talking about NHI, UFOs, the fact of the possibility of a non-human intelligence being openly discussed in the Congress is a momentous leap forward.
All right. So, I mean, there's a lot there. There's a lot there. Reilly, you hear that first and foremost. What's going through your mind after hearing the interview with Ross?
Well, it's just it just always just goes to the point of transparency. If there's nothing to show, then just tell us. Just give it up. But it just is the same thing. We talk. We're going to talk in circles about this, Christian.
Right.
They're bought for. They're paid for. They're going to keep doing this. And I cannot wait to see what Grush has to say, because I think, a strong. What do you say? A strong rebuttal.
He's going to go
what's
after the
going
two
on.
mics. He's going to go after
Yeah.
the mics really hard, and he's going to go after really hard the way he did on Rogan. He was
Yes.
out of everything that I've seen with Grush, and it might be also because it seemed like he was a fan of Rogan, and he seemed like he was getting a little loose there with him too. But I will say, in that interview, he was fired up, man. That was the most I'd seen him. I think he's as frustrated too, but in the way that Burchett almost seems like defeated, Grush seems like ready to scrap, and that could be youth. It could be youth, as he's. I don't even think he's 40 years old yet.
Yeah, and it could also be one person in the fight realizing that their buddy needs someone to carry the load for a little bit. You know what I mean? I imagine doing what Burchett's doing is exhausting, and thinking about how it could be a threat to his career and family and all these things. It weighs on you, I imagine. There was something that came out, and I've been trying to find it on the side here, and I can't pull it up suddenly, where it was a quote or attributed to Turner saying that he essentially has to also think of what's in the best interest of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, as if like that's the interest that he represents, not the American people that voted him in there. And it's like, it's getting to the point where it's so laughable and comical that it's idiocracy. It's like it's like a meme that we always talk about, that the stuff that we take for granted as normal today is so wild compared to where we were a few years ago. And the conversation is just going to shift, and Grush is probably just going to go, okay, well then let's do this. We tried to do it your way. They've all said it, by the way. We were talking about this on a stream a few weeks ago, that there was the control disclosure, idea that like, hey, if we do this as a collective and we bring together the best minds, we could do this in a way that doesn't upset the order of things, for the good of mankind. And then if we can't do it this way, we risk catastrophic disclosure. Those are the two terms that have been shared about.
Right.
So I think that they're going to be like, it's going to be this dance where they go, if you push back here, we're going to push a little this way and see if we can't meet in the middle somewhere.
So that article from 2010 is actually what you're referring to, Peter. It's like, here, let me bring this up real quick. So you see here in this article, Mike Turner makes it very clear what his priority is. It's not the American people. After he's called out for being corrupt, he responds, the campaign should be about protecting Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So
that's ridiculous. Yeah. That is ridiculous. And a point that I wanted to make off your finding that website there, Peter, that there is a lot of information out there that you can just go find yourself.
Yes.
Right. And that is one of the biggest problems we have in our culture, in our society, I think, is that everybody just takes the news in social media. Like some dude on Twitter said, there's no UFOs. Proof, it's look, if you just start looking, you can start making your own decisions and your own read that. Read what Mike Turner is doing and what is going into his pocket, and you can come up with your own kind of idea on what to expect from this guy, and when he's in cahoots with then our new Speaker of the House, who is very religious, I worry sometimes that is getting in the way of this because of the worldview that can absolutely change. Yeah.
Lou Elizondo said it early on, like, hey, and Lou Elizondo said it in a way, I remember looking at his face and go, God, I just get where this guy's coming from. He's like, look, the reality is a lot of these people are old school and they think that these things might be demons from the Bibles, yada, yada, yada,
But I saw some, and look, this might be a dickhead response. And it's probably maybe not as sympathetic as I should be, or open-minded, some will say. And it's funny and a little bit ironic, I guess, too. But when I see the comments going, the fact that you're dismissing it as demons is crazy. And I go, demons fly in spaceships?
Whatever.
whatever it is.
Fine.
Like my point is that it doesn't. That we should all be in the same. We should all have one thing in common. We don't know anything. We don't know shit. We're here trying to figure out what we don't know. So like the fact that we would sidebar and go to, I'm pretty sure it's green men. And I'm pretty sure it's demons from the, like that's so wild. Instead, it's just
we don't know what it is. We don't know what it is, but
we know there's corruption. We know people are bought off to cover things up, and we know that other people are trying to say, hey, we need to know what this is for all these reasons we just.
I want to jump back to what you said though before about, I think that Grush is somebody though that is kind of handcuffed in a way, as we previously mentioned, how much he can say, because yes, there's this movement from a lot of people out there. I mean, Jeremy Corbell has tweeted out, tons of people. I mean, even when who was it? The Daily Mail posted that thing out. It's like, okay, fine. If you guys don't want to tell us, then we're going to tell you. And they revealed the program. No one covered it, except like us and a few other people like covered. I guess like, the News Nation covered it and other people covered it, but it wasn't as big of a story as it should have been. And Daily Mail doesn't, I believe the report, but it doesn't have like the best reputation, And so when you have the disclosure stuff coming out, when it's a bunch of people, because even when we go on Twitter and you look at some of the videos that they still don't know the one. Remember the video we covered where it's the plane is going and then they have the orbs around it and then it disappears and people are like, oh, is that the Malaysia flight? And people still don't know what that is yet because it hasn't fully been debunked. Well, yes, it has. It hasn't. I looked. I thought that it was. I thought it was definitely debunked. Like, oh, somebody, because they were actually offering a reward out there. I don't know if you guys saw this, but there's a reward that somebody put together, like a hefty amount of, hey, for whoever made this actual video, if it is indeed a hoax, will pay X amount. It was like a hefty sum, and no one came forward on it. And so the point I make with that also is, doesn't matter if nobody came forward to it or not. No one's going to believe it unless government or someone reports on, like, what if the Daily Mail reports. And again, nothing against the Daily Mail. I thought the reporting on that story was very well done, and I believe the story. But if the Daily Mail was the paper or the website that reported the Lou Elizondo stuff that Leslie Kean did and New York Times did back in 2018 or whenever that was, it does not get the kind of notice today. But because the New York Times did it, it did. And
it's almost like, yeah. So go ahead.
That's what's important. That's what's important. Go ahead, Peter.
No, I was just going to say, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, it's almost like there are certain publications or certain organizations that when they say something, it's almost like a signal to the others, like, okay, we can talk about this now.
Yeah. It makes it more legitimate.
Yeah. And that's where, like, to your point, it's like, if you're not in that group, it gets out there and that might annoy some people, but they're not going to continue echoing in the ecosphere. It's just not going to happen.
Well, so we have another potential, a conversation here that was happening. So first I want to give a shout out to Pavel Mehta. So Pavel's going to probably start working with us a little bit. And he's gotten Burchett on his show. He's a Mexican reporter. He has a show that he does based in Mexico. And he's got a lot of great interviews, and he on his channel, and I'll put the link in there, he recently just had on Stephen Bissett, and this isn't from his interview, but Bissett is out there right now. This is Mike Colangelo. Is that how you pronounce it, Peter? Do you know Colangelo? Mike Colangelo. There you go.
Say it slower.
Yeah, perfect. Michelangelo. Anyway, well, so on his post, he has this thing from Stephen Bissett, and he says that Stephen Bissett talks about possible disclosure in January 2024. This kind of echoes what Peter was talking about. You get people inside of the community that are all saying this type of thing. Here's what he is saying, and this is how this post is. It says Stephen Bissett says that the Schumer Rounds Amendment can be reintroduced after 10 plus firsthand whistleblowers testify in a hearing. It's in parentheses that he is the only one saying this. I enjoy listening to Mr. Bissett, but his timelines are always wrong and sometimes not even based in reality, so I'm going to believe it when I see it. Bissett also says disclosure is really up to three men, Schumer, Warner, and Marco Rubio. Well, here's the interview clip that I'm going to play real quick.
And so ultimately, they won. They gutted the bill. They got rid of the eminent domain. They got rid of the disclosure control program, which included subpoena power, which they were absolutely frightened of. I mean, they just scared to death about that. And it got rid of the review panel. They gutted it. And so what's left is not particularly significant, but it is there. And we do have a fourth bill. Now, here's what's going to happen next. This is very important. The gutting of this bill does not in any way impede the Senate Intel Committee, chaired by Marco Rubio and Mark Warner, to call the hearings that there's several dozen witnesses ready to testify. People like Rush, or even better, 10, 15, 20 witnesses are prepared to go in front of the Senate Intel Committee as soon as possible, sit down, take an oath, and over a period of 5 days, maybe morning, afternoon sessions, tell things every bit as powerful as what Grush said and more. And those hearings will blow the truth embargo wide open. That's where this has always been headed. Once those hearings have been held, then the president, in a passive, nonpartisan way, will, after 76 years, be able to step out in the East Room and say to the American people that I've watched these hearings along with you. The testimony is compelling and profound. I've discussed it with my top officials as well as the Department of Defense, and we have come to a consensus that yes, we are not alone. We have extraterrestrial or non-human engagement. We have extraterrestrial or non-human technology, and I'm sure you want to know all about this. And we will start the process of telling you starting Monday morning, because this will probably happen on a Friday. Now, here's what happens after that. Once the president has confirmed the extraterrestrial presence, then they'll just reintroduce the bill as a standalone. And given the fact the world has just been told by the president and probably most other rest of the world leaders that we're not alone, we have an extraterrestrial presence, that bill will fly through the House and Senate like that, and they'll get all that infrastructure just a little late. Hopefully they won't wait too long, because once the president makes that announcement, I assure you all hell breaks loose. And if they don't have everything in place to properly address the proper process of disclosure and all of the concerns that the media and the public have, it's going to be chaos, and that would be wrong. And so I'm saying that we're going to get disclosure, hopefully in January. That bill will be reintroduced and passed, and we will enter the post-disclosure world, and years will go on where we are getting information out of our deepest, most secret facilities, documents, and everything else, up through a very responsible process with review ability, with committee members of Congress and the review board having this exact highest clearance you can have to be able to look and see anything. There will be no project, no document that they cannot see. They will have full special access, and that will be part of this, and we will go forward in the post-disclosure world. So we haven't lost. We've just been a slight setback, but now the history, the most important event in human history, is now in the hands of three men. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, House Senate Intel Committee Chairman Mark Warner, and Ranking Member Marco Rubio. These are the people that have the absolute most authority and ability to call that hearing. The president can't call it, and nobody else can call it. Only them.
I want to share his optimism.
I do too.
I want to share his optimism. And clearly,
I don't think it's that crazy.
I don't either. I don't think it's crazy.
No, meaning like his, in other words, to say optimism, it almost frames it like, gee, I hope. I think objectively speaking, based on what we said a few minutes ago, there's a momentum here, dude. And
yeah,
it's like,
but the optimism is this. The optimism is this. What he said was everything that he put together seems like a plan.
Yeah.
But the optimism is there's three guys that got to make that decision to make that happen. Then all of the whistleblowers have to come. Then the president has to go out and make a speech. Then all this stuff has to happen. It's like, I don't know.
Process.
Look, here's the thing that you want to take it to the political side of this stuff. The one thing that there's I brought this up last week to Reilly, and I'm curious, Peter, where you stand on it, right? So one of the things too, because they don't think about the American public, they think about power and they think about seats and they think about all that stuff too.
Yeah.
So the question is there's two sides of it. On the Democratic side, is Schumer waiting a little bit more and pushing it towards 2024, the January 2024, leading into it, so Biden can become the disclosure president? And then, holy moly, this guy just revealed the fact that aliens are running around. I'm voting for him, right? Or
during the election year, huh?
Right? Or is it the reason that the blocking is coming also is, why don't we wait a little bit And then if Trump gets in, he'll be the guy. So it's like, now, is it the only reason? No, but I'm just saying the conversation will come from both sides on whoever their person is.
These people have these delusions of grandeur. Like, you don't go and run for president of the United States if you don't have a sense of, like, you know, that you're the shit. You know what I mean? And so I do think there's a part of anybody in that position who wants to be the guy. I know Clinton wanted to be the guy. Obama talks about it as if he was asking about it. So I don't put that out of it, but I also think,
but not those guys. But Peter, I'm not talking about them, the guys.
No, I know the administration,
the team around.
Yeah. What I'm saying is that a president would go along with it because you get that perk that you're historically the president. However, like, you know, the bigger takeaway for me is that if the steps that he just laid out, in order for those steps to get blocked repeatedly over time, you now have a different problem on your hands, which is that we have hardcore evidence that is hard to deny that you are not in the same political system that you thought you were, that you will be shut down at every turn, even when there are military officials who are saying, guys, we don't care about Martians. We don't want to get shot or crashed into the sky by something we can't, you know, explain. And you start to, like, you know, stifle their voices. Now we got a different problem, right?
Yeah.
Which is, like, you know, real, you know, selective authoritarianism over people's speech. I do think, though, that my optimism is that it's only going to take one little leak that is undeniable, that now everyone's going to be like, bring all those guys back. We need to talk.
That to me is the thing. That was right. That's what I was going to say, is that so the one thing that has to happen, I think, is that in order for this, as we were talking about before, when it comes to anybody can have this footage, it's got to be this thing that happens that is just so undeniable that people are asking questions, and it is just this piece of evidence that really goes, okay, we tried to block everything else. The grainy footage we could block, this we could block, this we could block, the guy saying he heard from a guy who heard from a guy who heard from a guy, we could make that, but this is clear cut. We don't know how to block this. We don't know how to get Mike Turner to say this isn't real. So that's what we need. The question is that what the Lou Elizondos of the world, the Jeremy Corbells of the world are saying? Is that the kind of stuff is happening? The Logan Paul, not Aaron Paul, footage, is that significant at all, or is it not? I don't know.
I don't know. I tell you what we really need, Kristian, is we need these aliens to just come down, hover over the earth, and just make themselves known so that nobody can question it.
Right, so they just say, cut it out. They just say,
Put like
cut it out.
Put like a fun emoji over the ship so that everyone knows they come in jest. You know what I mean?
they're like, hey, dummy,
We
hey,
want to
dummy.
just talk.
Yeah, hey,
I
dummy.
don't want any mystery about it to be, so that we can, then this becomes like the next thing we have to all be afraid of and, like,
Right.
send money to the military for, you know?
They're like, hey,
Right.
dummies, we've been here for thousands of years. Stop whining, stop fighting each
Calm
other.
down.
Now know that we're here. Figure it around amongst yourselves. Throw in jail whoever needs to be thrown in jail, and let's have breakfast together.
Instead of the War of the Worlds trumpet sound, it's just like a big
Big fart.
Wah, wah.
Yeah, well, I want to make you guys happy and not sad. So in order to do that, I will tell you about Green Chef and Nutrafol. Both great sponsors. Happy to have them both with us. We'll be back in just a second because I got some other stuff to talk about that's nuts. But this is really, really great stuff. So here, let me tell you about Green Chef and Nutrafol. Here we go. It is the holiday season, everybody. And what better way than to get the #1 meal kit for eating clean? That's Green Chef. Let Green Chef take the work out of eating clean this holiday season with chef-crafted, nutritionist-approved recipes featuring fresh ingredients with nothing artificial. You can choose from recipes featuring lean proteins like turkey and sockeye salmon, that's the best, barramundi, tilapia, scallops, shrimp, certified organic whole fruits, vegetables, eggs, plenty of whole grain options. I love Green Chef. I use them all the time. You guys know I've been talking about Green Chef forever. And why? Because they're the best. You can eat clean the delicious way this December with flavor-packed recipes like buttery lemon garlic shrimp, harissa apricot chicken, maple butternut squash risotto, and sriracha tamari beef bowls. They have so many great things. I've told you guys my favorite things that I do now. I make like these quesadillas that I get from them all the time because I love their food. I love the stuff that they send, and they give you recipes if you want to follow them. You can make your own stuff. It really is fantastic because with Green Chef, you're reducing your food waste by up to 23% versus grocery shopping. It's the best. It is the best. You do so much for not only yourself, for the environment in general, and you're eating clean. It's delish. You go to greenchef.com/60thing, and if you use the code 60thing, you're going to get 60% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. That's the best deal ever. greenchef.com/60thing. Use that code, man, 60thing, 60% off. How many times I got to say 60? Don't be embarrassed. Don't do it. Listen, did you know that 80% of men will experience hair thinning in their lifetime? It's normal, guys. But it doesn't have to be your fate. You can get ahead of thinning with Nutrafol. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement clinically shown to improve your hair growth, visible thickness, and visible scalp coverage. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements use physician-formulated, natural, science-backed ingredients. Their drug-free, patented technology provides consistent, reliable results without compromising your sexual health. Go to Nutrafol.com/men to take their hair wealth wellness quiz. Identify causes of your thinning hair, and Nutrafol will give you a personalized plan for better hair health through whole body wellness. It works. In a clinical study, 84% of men showed improvement in their hair after 6 months taking Nutrafol men's hair growth supplements. Everybody feels this way as you're getting older. You're like, oh man, am I the only one? Why is this happening to me? This and that. We're in an age now where you can get it helped. You can get it fixed. Take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men, but you have to enter that promo code BIGTHING. Find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com/men. Nutrafol.com/men and enter that code BIGTHING. That's Nutrafol.com/men, promo code BIGTHING. All right, thank you to our friends over at Green Chef and Nutrafol. Once again, holiday seasons, you help out the show, you get something great for yourself. It's worth it. Go ahead, check them both out. Links in the description, and I always pin the sponsors as the first comment below. So you're helping us out tremendously. Okay, so here's the other thing, guys. This is a crazy one that I saw, and I put this one towards the end. I couldn't believe this. All right, so for this from Robert Powell. The FAA claims they cannot find the 100 plus UAP reports that they gave to the AARO. Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick stated in late October of this year that the AARO has received over 100 UAP incidents reports from the FAA. I asked the FAA for a copy of those unclassified reports, and it seems like a reasonable request. After all, the FAA is responsible for civil transportation. They are financed by our tax dollars through Congress. Here is the FAA reply to an FOIA that I made in October. Mr. Powell, this email regards the FOA request that you submitted to the FAA on October 28, 2023. Your request is for a search of the mandatory occurrence reports involving UFO and UAP, specific to those reports which were given to the AARO. I referred your request to the Department of Defense, since that agency will have or should have the subject of the 100 plus reports that the FAA provided to DoD. The FAA has approximately 47,000 employees and multiple offices, as we do not have a list or index that can be queried for the purposes of identifying where the subject records which AARO received came from. DoD should have those readily available. I communicated with blah, 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 or you may contact the FOA office. Thank you. So he responds, really? The FAA claims that they don't keep up with their communications with AARO. They claim that the AARO could have contacted any of their 47,000 employees to get this information. Therefore, they don't know what they gave the AARO. It is time that Congress takes the investigation of UAP away from the military and their cohorts. Congress needs to provide funding to academia and the scientific community. Yeah, this is ridiculous.
That stinks. Everything stinks, Christian. I don't like this.
It doesn't
Come
pass the
on.
sniff test. But you know, this is
God.
one of those things that's like bureaucracy and just messy, like, you know, and if it needed to be cleared up, it will be cleared up like this. The same way they cleared up San Francisco all of a sudden for Xi like this, they would clear up the issues here if they wanted to.
Dude, when they like basically it's some guy, it's almost like the Matrix when they're putting out not the Matrix, John Wick. When they're putting out, you know, like the hit on John Wick, and there's like all the operators in the thing, and they're like, we have an email asking about that. What is it? Oh, send them to the DOD.
Yeah.
Okay. Go to the DOD. We don't know where those are. It's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? You just had the guy, Sean Kirkpatrick goes, we've had a bunch of the reports. Where are the reports? They're open to everybody. Where are they? And I said, this isn't just like a silly, you know, how do you build an IKEA desk that we forgot? We don't know where the instructions are. That was the model from years ago. What are you talking about? This is one of the biggest topics going on right now. And you don't have in your space, and you don't have the reports. You don't know where. Of course, you know where they are. You're not. This is the email that they told you to.
That's bullshit. Yeah, this is like ground zero for this kind of stuff. The FAA is like the first line of everything for us. That commercial travel, all they're monitoring the skies, for God's sakes. They're gonna have that information. We don't need to say it. We know we lost them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
sure you did. Sure.
Whoever's making that ask, Robert Powell, is not, I guess, important enough to be able to just get that information. That's what it comes down to. If you've ever been in part of any workplace environment or any kind of corporate structure, hierarchy, you know what this is. Like someone says, oh yeah, go over there to ask them because they probably have it, just to get you out of their face for a minute. By the time you get there, that person's like, what? Can you go ask them to clarify what they meant? And so you go back. By the time you end up getting everything on the same page, 3 weeks have gone by. It's like, and you're exhausted and you forgot what you were asking in the first place.
All right. The other thing is this. Reilly and I have talked about this for a while on the show, and a couple of months back, whenever they had the Republican primaries, and many ways that Chris Christie shot himself in the foot. One of the ways that he did it was he kind of goofed on UFOs in the way that people used to, in the ways like, I get the UFO question. Oh, like he's at Caroline's. And it backfired in his face. And he wound up getting a lot of people kind of coming after him. Then he tried to take it seriously, and it didn't work. What I really respected was the fact they asked RFK about it on the Hill, and they asked him his opinion on it because he's running as obviously an independent. He's clearly not as caught up. He didn't even know David Grush's name when he was bringing this stuff up. However, what he did say was that it was fascinating and that he would disclose everything on day one, that with stuff that he could on day one. To me, that's an approach that all these politicians should be taking, because it's like, okay, I don't know enough about it, but I want to. It's fascinating. It's in the news a lot now, and he's paying attention to it. So, Peter, what else did I miss inside of that?
Well, he posted something, I guess on X or something, where it says, remember, UFOs were the very essence of a conspiracy theory. Quote, the term was practically invented for it. People who spoke out were ridiculed and their careers destroyed. Our government did that. That's it. So it's just kind of like this ambiguous statement, but also it's probably loaded in the context of his campaign. And what I will say in the context of what you just brought up with Chris Christie, and this is not a political discussion in any sense. It's just that when you have a bunch of these candidates who are all vying for attention, and the majority of them are carrying the water in one direction, it behooves one of the candidates, perhaps the one that's tracking the lowest, to find an angle, to find an inside angle. And you want that to be the avenue of honesty and diplomacy but if at the very least, this is one of those things that if one of them latches onto and can speak to the angle of, these are our military guys talking about this, that we always say we support the armed forces, we support our troops. Here are our troops on Capitol Hill talking to Congress in the way that you want this to work, like in a very official, organized, respectable way, and you're still dismissing on it. What does that say about your respect or lack thereof for the process and the people involved in it? So I do think that whatever you think of RFK and all the candidates, frankly, it is something to look out for, that if one of them needs a Hail Mary pass, it might be this, and that's one of those moments that opens everything up.
It was very smart for
Yeah.
him to do, because he is the highest polling independent candidate since Ross Perot in 1982, and he's barely even getting a lot of coverage on a lot of the main networks. So by doing that, by going on and doing exactly what you're talking about, Peter, is the fact that he didn't dismiss it. He's clearly not as educated in it, because like I said, he didn't know David Grush's name. He didn't know these things, and he might very well someone going, hey, this is a topic we should get into, because when you look at the numbers that this particular network does for this topic, you should talk about it, and you should say this, and that. Very well might be political, but
Yeah, I lean there.
But he's saying the right things. But he's
saying the right things, but I do caution, because he is running, and that could be something that he's just saying.
I agree.
Because he wants to get his polling up or whatever.
Better than saying that than Christie saying the I got the UFO question.
Yeah, and
he learned fast,
bedfellows. Strange bedfellows, though, right? Like, you could say, I don't take anything this guy says seriously, because he's just manipulating, the people to vote for him, yada yada. And he's probably well aware that he has that independent streak of the audience supporting him. Nonetheless, if it comes from him, if he could drop something, if he knows someone who feeds him something, and whatever it is, however the gates open, it could come this way. Right. It could come from someone just saying, well, here you go. Boom. You're not going to let me into the debate. Here's this. Boom.
Well, look, there's a lot that we talked about here today, guys. As I mentioned to you, be part of this conversation. For the people that keep coming in here every week, it's because you're curious, like we are. We've always told you, and I stamp it down. We're not experts on this thing. We just want questions. We're regular people like you guys, and we just want to know what the hell it is. We are the people that everybody listening to this, that a lot of these people are fighting for the information to come to. Like, I don't know a lot of the names. I don't know a lot of this stuff. I'm learning like you guys are. So be part of this conversation. In order to do it, hit that button, man. Hit the subscribe button. No, every Tuesday we're going to be here talking about these things, and it's really important. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of that. I want to thank my co-hosts today here, starting with Attack Peter. Peter, where can they find you, and what do you got going on?
Well, I'm going to LA this week. I don't know. I'll be in Anaheim for Designer Con. I'm an artist, if you didn't know, and I'll be over there at the Mondo booth. We sell lots of cool toys and posters and records for some of your favorite movies, and so lots of fun stuff going on over there. But yeah, you can find me anywhere online at Attack Peter. And I just want to say thanks again, Kristian, for having me on. I love doing this, and I hope everybody who's watching, if you're not subscribed, please do, because this whole thing is growing because of that.
Mark, Yodius Reilly, where can they find you?
At Reilly Around across X, Threads, Instagram, YouTube, REILLY Around. See you there.
And for me, again, you can find me at Kristian Harloff, but also patreon.com/thebigthingshow. Mark Reilly and I do an additional UAP show twice a month. We're going to do one really soon, and we'll have one at the end of the month also. So head on over there. We're almost at 400. We're trying to get to 1,000, guys. That would be great. You can get us there. Anyway, thanks for joining us. Myself, Attack Peter, Mark Reilly. We'll see you next time.